In England, it was massive. It was the headline news all the time. The whole country was oriented around rock and roll anyway. It was the only thing the country had to be proud of since World War II, was the culture, what it had contributed to rock and roll in the world. It was the only export England had. You know, there were like 5 weekly newspapers. In America, there was not a single weekly rock and roll newspaper. So it was headlines all the time, whereas in America, it was nothing like that. So there was this feeling of, it was a strange feeling of knowing that a lot of the stuff that was going on in England had originated in New York and that we'd created. But at the same time, they were trying to set themselves apart from us, which, you know, so it was a little bit demoralizing because of that, you know. It was very chauvinistic, you know. I mean, the Clash have a song like I'm So Bored with the USA. It was all about promoting pride in the kids, which was also true about what we were doing in New York. And rock and roll had always been about anarchy. You know, that's what rock and roll is. It's wild in the streets, you know. It's about no rules. So to me, the political thing really just seemed, to me, it was just superficial as a way of distinguishing between New York and England. I mean, the whole idea of pride in your rejected self was built into rock and roll. The bands in England got a little more explicit about it, you know, using the word anarchy in a song. But to me, that wasn't a big departure.
I am an antichrist. I am an anarchist. Don't know what I want, but I know how to get it. I want to destroy.
People often don't realise that, you know, how heavily populated Britain is, how densely populated Britain is. It's in England in particular. It's one of the most densely populated countries in the world. So things can move very, very, very quickly. I think everybody looked at the UK. They were clearly influenced in part by the UK, and they had a field day going over and being part of that music scene that was going on. Definitely, it was a lot harder. You know, I'm not so much talking about the Bostons or San Franciscos or LAs of this world, but, you know, back in the late 70s, you know, a lot of American cities were hard rock cities, and they weren't going to take to this stuff very easily. So it was a slog for these bands to just keep going back out and work the American market, and they must have loved being able to come over to the UK and be on TV and see their records in the charts and playing, you know, the Hammersmith Odeons of this world. It must have been a treat.
I've always thought that the English had a good knack at looking at what was happening in New York and accepting it and understanding it before the rest of America did. I mean, somebody from New York could go over to England and be huge all over England and be nothing in America at all. I mean, people laughed Jimi Hendrix off the stage until he went to England. That's the same case with the Dolls and the Ramones and even Blondie. Blondie were accepted more in England before they were accepted in America. And Wayne County. God, I went to England and you'd have thought I was like the Rolling Stones. I was flabbergasted. I went and played the Roxy and it was packed. There were lines around the block. And Johnny Thunders came to me and he said, we had to play months and months before we could pack it out like this. I stepped over there with my reputation and packed that place out. They were lines around the block to see Wayne County when I first played England, because they had been hearing about me for years. And it works out because I'm an Anglophile. I've always loved English, and I was the only one in my neighborhood that had a British flag on my wall. I had all these English records that nobody else could get. So it made me feel good to go to England and be accepted. In fact, I didn't even care about the rest of America. if I could be accepted and understood, and if I could do good in England, that meant more to me than doing anything else in America.
First we opened for Elvis Costello, that was Europe. And little did I know, going from Elvis to England was going from the frying pan into the fire. I didn't know. I thought it was the other way around. Oh, the Clash, oh yeah, absolutely the greatest. Little did I know, the Specials opened the show, then it was Suicide, then it was the Clash. So when everybody came out, of course the first band's going to get shit, no matter who they are. So it wasn't us though, it was the Specials. So the guy said, they're playing a nice thing though, they're playing a good reggae-like thing. They were all out of prison, and you know, but they were cool, very cool guys. And Suicide comes forward. Now they want the Clash, but they're getting Suicide with all the. And then the Clash came out, did their thing. Everybody loved them. So basically, that was the tour. I loved the Clash. I used to go underneath the drum rider, behind it, to sit there for every one of their shows. I loved their music. It was their first album. I loved it. But well, man, every day they used to spit. So every day I had a purple jacket. It was like, pew, pew, pew. I had to go have it cleaned every day. It was like pigeon shit.
We were told that you got gobbed. Kids that played in clubs, you know, like got spat at. If a single person had thrown a single thing or spat, we would have left the stage, end of show.
The gobbing thing was rough. The gobbing thing I never accepted. You know, I just never accepted the whole philosophy, principle behind it. To me, it was just, you know, some asshole that wanted to spit on you, and I wasn't having it. You know, I mean, I just didn't get it. The whole idea, you know, the premise of bringing, you know, the performer down to the level of the people. Well, once you get down to me, once you bring me, I'm already not on, you know, any pedestal. But once you bring me down there, you're going to spit on me. I didn't get it. That was the biggest shock for us, was the gobbing. You woke up every morning at 8 o'clock. You got into the station wagon. You knew that by 8 o'clock that night you're going to be covered in other people's spit, you know, head to toe. And I once watched Strummer like get hit so hard that it was like the Zapruder film. It was like, you know, it was. I mean, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. So yeah, that was a big difference.